Okay, I'm going to get started by just welcoming all of you guys. Welcome to Wat Tung. Nice to see everyone this morning. Good morning, Sawadee Kap. Good morning to everyone online who's joining us as well. Today is our group learning program where I'm going to be sharing some teachings with you guys. And what I've done is set it up so that you guys can learn the very first teaching of the Buddha. This is called the Four Noble Truths. This is where you learn the problem in the mind, the cause of that problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward. This is where you would really start on the path to enlightenment, because what the Buddha helps you to be able to see is the reason why you experience things like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings and others are actually being caused by the same underlying thing. Now, in our day-to-day life, with our lack of wisdom in the unenlightened state, we will tend to think that these feelings are being caused by something external. Even people, we will think that they're being caused by things external. But the teachings of the Buddha will help you to be able to see in a way that you can independently verify that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. And you need to be able to see that very clearly, because that's what's going to help you to be able to eliminate it. If you don't understand what's causing your anger, sadness, frustration, and other things like this, you wouldn't actually be able to eliminate it. So in a way that you can independently verify, I'm going to walk you through today, allowing you to be able to have the opportunity to have a breakthrough. You can have a real breakthrough to finally understanding what's causing these discontent feelings so that you can actually eliminate them. So this is an excellent day to come to the temple and learn the teachings of the Buddha, because it's the very first place to get started. The way that we start our classes is we start with meditation. So I'm going to guide you in a meditation session first, and then I'll move into this talk about the Four Noble Truths, helping you to have this breakthrough to be able to understand your mind and your feelings and why these things are occurring. The way that we start with meditation is we start with some chanting to ease us into the meditation. If you would like to chant along, you're more than welcome to. I have the chants over there on a laminated sheet on the cabinet. You're welcome to help yourself to get one of the chanting sheets. For those of you guys online, this chanting sheet is on our website at buddhadailywisdom.com. You can click on free books and kind of scroll down, and you'll see the daily chanting sheet there. When we're chanting, it's important to understand that this isn't a rite, a ritual, or a ceremony or worship. It's not prayer or anything like that. The Buddha didn't teach any of those kinds of things. Even if you've seen people associate what they do to the Buddha, and they're doing rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer, this isn't what the Buddha actually taught. These chants during the lifetime of the Buddha were used to commit the teachings to memory. Whether these actual chants existed during his lifetime or not, I'm unsure. But chanting as the way that the Buddha used it was in order to commit the teachings to memory, because everything he taught was oral. So he needed to use some device to help his students to be able to remember the teachings. And they use chanting to be able to do that. And you can see through that there isn't anything mystical or magical about these chants. So when you're chanting this, it's not a prayer or worship or any kind of ceremony or anything like that. What we're doing is helping to ease our mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. If you read the English translations, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of that, I don't think that the Buddha actually even created these chants. They were probably created by his students, either during his life or after his death. Because a Buddha wouldn't walk around saying, here, chant these things to me out of admiration for me, because that would be the ego if somebody was doing that. And an individual who's gotten to enlightenment, and a Buddha has gotten to enlightenment, they wouldn't have ego. They wouldn't put themselves above people and look down on other people. But if you learn from a teacher how to move from the anger, the sadness, the frustration, and all those other discontent feelings to this peaceful and joyful mental state, which is a permanent mental state, and this teacher didn't want anything from you or expect anything from you, you might actually have a lot of appreciation and respect for this person too. So I suspect that people either during his life or after his death created these out of their respect for him, because getting to this enlightened mental state is the very best thing that you could ever experience for your life. So if you'd like to chant along, you're more than welcome to. After the chanting, I'm going to be providing you some guidance, helping you understand how to meditate while we're actually meditating, kind of giving you some instructions. But then there's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet and we're just all meditating together. Everyone here at the temple and anyone joining us online will just all be meditating at the same time. Now, I'm sure you're going to hear an occasional sound here or there. because you can't be in an environment where it's permanently quiet. And if your mind is craving permanent silence, when you hear a sound, your mind will be annoyed or frustrated or some other discontent feeling. But if you understand that sounds are impermanent and quietness is impermanent too, it's not going to be permanent. That when you hear that car go by, or the bird chirping, or the dog barking, or maybe someone sneezes or coughs, you won't be annoyed or frustrated by that, because you just understand that this is impermanence, it's normal. And if your mind doesn't have a craving for permanent silence, when you hear sound, you can be completely content and peaceful during that period of time. Then we're going to come out of the meditation with some more chanting, and then that's where I'll start today's class. In terms of your body positioning for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught. There's seated, lying, standing, and walking. And these 4 positions are positions that you would need at different times in order to be able to help you on the path to enlightenment, because you would employ them at different times for different reasons. But oftentimes people are learning in the seated position, so I'll teach you that first, kind of giving you some guidance on that. And then in other retreats and courses and things like that, I can share with you the other positions. But in terms of your body positioning, oftentimes people are learning in the seated position. So you might sit on the floor, in a chair. If you're at home, you might be on a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair or something like this. You can sit however you're comfortable. There's not just one fixed way to actually sit. So the things that I share with you are just things for you to consider to help you become more comfortable. If you're on the floor, you might sit with some cushions under your rear. This will kind of soften your seat. And if you're going to cross your legs, you might just bring those together lightly. This will help to ensure that you don't have pain in the lower body. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets your hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles. So if that's comfortable, you could use that. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable for you, you could use it, but there's other options here as well. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or on their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So whatever you find to be comfortable, you can just use that. In terms of your upper body, it's helpful if the sternum is up and the shoulders are back. This will keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, because this is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. And you need your mind to be attentive and alert while you're doing this. So if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So by having the sternum up and the shoulders back, not only will it help keep your mind attentive and alert during the meditation so that you can actively train it, but it'll help you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So again, I'm going to start with some chanting. You're welcome to join in on that, and then I'll come back in with some guidance. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakeva Potang Mahakavanang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Sāvaka Saṅkho Saṅghang Namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso emakawa arahang sammasammuto vicacaranang sammuno Sakato rokawitu anutero purisa namasati satatawa manusanang Poto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, in the upper body erect. Just close the eyes. And just start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thoughts, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakawa Potang Mahakawanang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakawata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti pisu Mahakawa Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusanang Poto Bhagavati. Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to all of you guys. Welcome to Wat Tung. Welcome to everyone who's joining us online as well. As I was mentioning, today I'm going to share with you the Four Noble Truths, helping you guys to have a breakthrough to understanding what's causing the mind to experience these discontent feelings. But first, let me just share a little bit about what enlightenment is before we move into this teaching. What enlightenment is a mental state that you attain in this life or at death, where the mind has been purified. There are certain pollutions that the Buddha discovered in the mind, and when you uproot those pollutions using the tools and techniques that the Buddha shares, you'll experience more and more qualities where the mind is peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. When the mind is actually fully purified, you will no longer experience any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings and others are completely eliminated from the mind because the causes and conditions that are producing them have been uprooted and eliminated from the mind. And because the mind is now purified, you'll notice that it performs optimally, that the mind is focused, having concentration, clarity, and deep memory. You'll notice that your personal and professional relationships are really blossoming, because you're not being bitter and harsh and hostile any longer. Right now, there's probably certain relationships that you might struggle in, you might have difficulties in, because there's a certain amount of bitterness and hostility that you're putting out. And this is only going to just come back to you. By the time you get to enlightenment, you'll also get to the point where you're not even experiencing a bad mood. It's impossible for the enlightened mind to even experience a bad mood because the causes and conditions that are producing those have been uprooted. There's other qualities and other benefits as well, but this is just kind of like a little summary. This is a mental state that you're attaining in this life, and then the mind will permanently reside in that mental state. And in order to get started on this path, an individual would need to really understand the Four Noble Truths. That's the very beginning of the path. If you were going to go hiking on a trail, there's usually like a trail marker at the beginning of the trail that kind of gives you a summary of what you're going to encounter on this hiking trail. It's, maybe starting in the parking lot and you're going to walk down this hill, cross a stream, walk up a hill, cross the mountain, down the mountain, and come back down over to the parking lot. And you kind of have a general idea of what you're headed for on this hiking trail. Well, this Four Noble Truths is like that trail marker. It's going to help you to understand what's going on in the unenlightened mind. You're going to be able to have a breakthrough to finally understanding why you're experiencing anger, sadness, frustration, and all these other discontent feelings. Right now, you might be believing that it's other people or it's external circumstances that are causing these feelings. And as long as you walk around thinking that way, you'll never actually solve it. You'll continue to be angry and frustrated and having stress and anxiety for the rest of your life. But there is a better way. There's this middle way that the Buddha taught to help you understand how to purify the mind and get to the point where you're only experiencing peace and joy in your day-to-day life. And it starts with the Four Noble Truths. When you're learning the teachings of the Buddha, it's important that you don't believe any of his teachings. His teachings aren't based in belief. You're not believing a bunch of things and hoping something good happens when you die. Instead, you're learning, you're examining, you're investigating his teachings. In order to do that, you need to listen with eager ears. This is what the Buddha guided his students to do as they're learning his teachings, is to listen with eager ears, because now you can learn, you can examine, and you can investigate his teachings. Then after you do that, you would like to start reflecting on his teachings to independently verify whether they're true or they're false. And I'm going to help you see how to do that today. And then you would like to integrate the teachings into your day-to-day life so you can practice the teachings. So this learning, reflection, and practicing is going to help you to arise wisdom, because what the mind is experiencing, among other things, is a lack of wisdom of the natural laws around you. When we were growing up, we lacked wisdom of the natural law of gravity. And because of that, we really struggled. We fell down, we hit our head, we bumped our elbows, we broke our toys, we cried and cried and cried because we didn't understand the world that we live in. And this natural law of gravity was affecting us, whether we were aware of it or not. And that's why we kept falling down and having difficulties and struggles. But then slowly but surely over time, we gained wisdom of this natural law of gravity. And we started making wiser choices. We started tying our shoes a bit tighter. We started looking at the surface of the sidewalk. We stopped being so giddy and bouncing around like a kid all the time. And now we're at the point where we might say that we fully awoke to the natural law of gravity, because we have full wisdom of this natural law. And because of that, we make different decisions now. Because we have wisdom, we can ride bicycles, we can climb ladders, we can get on airplanes and fly all over the world, because we have wisdom of this natural law and we no longer struggle with it. But when we lacked wisdom, we struggled with the natural law of gravity. Well, there's other natural laws that are affecting you, whether you're aware of it or not. And if you lack wisdom of those natural laws, you will struggle and you'll have difficulties in your day-to-day life. And that's what the stress and the anxiety is helping you to be able to see. That's what the frustration and the agitation and the annoyance and all these other discontent feelings are there for. It's helping you to see that your mind is not yet awake, that there's certain things about this world that you don't understand. And the mind is struggling and having difficulties in these situations. And you can cultivate wisdom about how your mind works and how the world around you is working. And you can get to the point where you fully transform your mind and you only experience peace and joy, the enlightened mental state. That's why we call it awakening, because the mind is cultivating wisdom. So as I shared the teachings with you today, it's important that you don't believe anything that I say, because belief isn't going to get you to wisdom. You need wisdom of these natural laws. So I'm going to show you how to learn it, how to reflect on it, and how to practice each of the things that I'm going to share with you. And at different times, I'm going to pause and see if you guys have questions that you might need clarification. If you're here at the temple and you would like to ask questions, we have microphones in the white bowl there in the middle of the room. You can just get a microphone, press the gray button. You're going to see the lights come on. You can hold this up to your chin, and we'll hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you online. And you can keep keep these microphones with you because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question, and you guys can share the microphones. And then if you're not using it, if you could just turn it off, that way we won't get any feedback through the speakers. Then for anybody who's online, if you guys would like to ask questions, you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section, and I'll be able to see that. Or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand, unmute your microphone, and then we'll be able to hear you so that you can ask any questions that you like. So as you guys are starting to get ready to learn the Four Noble Truths, it's important to first learn the three universal truths. These are like building blocks to help you understand the Four Noble Truths. You wouldn't be able to understand the Four Noble Truths without understanding the three universal truths first. And we refer to these as truths because the Buddha knew that they were true. I know that they're true. Other people know that they're true. But in order for you to benefit, you need to know they're true. And that's why you don't believe anything that I'm sharing with you. So let me show you how this works. This first universal truth is called the universal truth of impermanence. The Buddha is going to explain to you the way the world is. He doesn't explain to you the way the world should be and giving you rules and commandments to follow. He's helping you to understand the way the world is. And that's the wisdom of the natural laws that you can now awaken to and navigate the world more peacefully. What he's explaining to you is that everything in the world around you is impermanent. Things are constantly changing. That whatever you can see, hear, smell, taste, anything that comes in contact with the body, or any thoughts or ideas that go through the mind, these are all impermanent, meaning temporary. They're constantly changing. This is called a conditioned object. Conditioned objects arise, they change, and then they fade away. This is the universal truth of impermanence, helping you to understand that things are constantly changing. They're temporary. Everything around you that you can see, hear, smell, taste, that comes in contact with the body, or any thoughts or ideas that go through the mind, these are all impermanent. Then there's something called unconditioned objects. They don't arise, they don't change, and they don't fade away. Enlightenment is that way. Once you get to enlightenment, it is a permanent mental state. And then also the natural laws that the Buddha taught, those are an unconditioned object as well. They don't arise, they don't change, and they don't fade away. That's why his teachings from 2,500 years ago are just as applicable today as they were 2,500 years ago, because he's describing these natural laws, and these natural laws haven't changed, right? So this is the universal truth of impermanence, helping you to understand that things are constantly changing in the world. They're temporary. But now you don't believe that. That's the intellectual learning. That's the examination and investigation that we just did. Now you move this into reflection, because you need to independently verify if what I'm sharing with you is true. Because if it's true, if it is the truth, you would be able to independently verify it. So what you do is you start looking around the world to see if you can verify that, yes, everything that you can see, hear, smell, taste, and touch, and that goes through the mind is impermanent. Because if you can find something that is permanent that meets this description, then this isn't a universal truth. So I suggest you start with something that you're very familiar with, like this human body. You can ask yourself, is this body permanent or is it impermanent? If it's permanent, that means it's never changed. It's always the same. If this body is impermanent, then that means it's constantly changing. So what would you say? Is this body permanent or impermanent? It's impermanent, right? Since the time of conception, with the egg and sperm coming together, this body's been constantly changing. We get taller, we get shorter, we get a little bit fatter, we get a little bit skinnier, right? We get pimples, we get moles, we get gray hairs, we start losing our hair. All these things are impermanence. Our skin complexion changes. Things are constantly changing with this physical body. What about your relationships? Are your relationships permanent, meaning people in your life have been in your life your entire life? Or are your relationships impermanent, meaning people have been coming and going in and out of your life? What would you say? Are your relationships permanent or impermanent? They're impermanent, right? People are coming and going in and out of your life. What about your bank account? Is your bank account permanent or impermanent? Is your bank account permanent or impermanent? It's impermanent, right? It's going up and down and up and down. Some people's goes up, up, up. Some people's go down, 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 right? It just depends what kind of bank account you have, right? But it's definitely impermanent, right? What about the weather? Is the weather permanent or impermanent? Is the weather permanent or impermanent? It's impermanent, right? It's constantly changing. It's sunny, it's raining. Some places it's sleeting and snowing, hurricanes, typhoons, all these different things, right? This is all impermanence. So you could go on and on and on like this. And if you need to do that in order to be able to see with 100% certainty that this is a universal truth, then do that. Go out in the world, walk down the sidewalk. You're going to see that there's a crack in the sidewalk. That is impermanence, right? Here in Thailand, the sidewalks go up and down sometimes. As you're walking down the street, you have to go walk up, you have to walk down the sidewalk. Some streets have sidewalks, some streets don't, right? Today, when you're walking down the sidewalk, you're probably going to be dry, and the next thing you know, you're going to be wet. That's impermanence, right? Because here in Thailand, they're going to be throwing water on you all day today, right? So you'll see that there's a bunch of impermanence, right? And then you can see on even the wood planks on the floor of the temple that some of them are longer and shorter. Some of them are different colors and different textures, right? This is all impermanence. Things are constantly changing in the world around you. And this is an important fundamental building block to help you understand the Four Noble Truths when we get to it. Then there's the second universal truth. The second universal truth is called discontentedness. What the Buddha is doing here is he's explaining to you the unenlightened mind and what you experience in the unenlightened mind. Now, if you studied the teachings of the Buddha in other places, you might have heard the word suffering being used here. I don't use the word suffering because it doesn't accurately reflect what the Buddha was teaching on this important topic. The word that is in the original Pali text is called dukkha. This word is oftentimes translated as suffering, but a more appropriate word would be discontent, discontented, or discontentedness. Because what the Buddha is describing here in this particular universal truth is that the unenlightened mind experiences pleasant feelings, painful feelings, and neither painful nor pleasant. These are conditioned feelings. Based on some condition, the mind is now going to experience happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. These are very pleasant for the mind to experience, and it's based on some condition. You look outside and it's sunny outside, now you're happy. Your bank account balance is up here, now you're happy. There's some condition that needs to be present in order for the mind to experience that pleasant feeling. But then there's painful feelings like sadness, anger, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety. These are very painful for the mind to experience. And these are conditioned feelings too. Based on some condition, the mind will experience these feelings. Then there's neither painful nor pleasant. I put boredom and loneliness here, but some people say that that's very painful for them. So you could put that in the painful category if you like. But shyness is a really good example. It's not painful, it's not pleasant, it's neither painful nor pleasant. Or say somebody that you don't know comes and sits really close to you on public transportation and your body is touching their body. You might say, it's not painful, it's not pleasant. The mind's kind of like unsatisfied or uncomfortable in that situation. Right? So these are the three feelings that the unenlightened mind is experiencing. Pleasant, painful, neither painful nor pleasant. And it's based on some condition, right? You wake up in the morning as an unenlightened being, you see it's sunny outside. Oh, yay, it's sunny. I'm going to go hiking today. I'm going to go out on this trail. I've been wanting to go on this trail for so long. Oh, this is going to be so fun. I'm going to call all my friends. We're going to have a great time. And now you go take a shower and you come out and it's raining. Oh man, it's raining. I can't go. I'm so angry and frustrated now, right? The mind, because it formed its happiness on the sun, and the sun was not permanent. Now, when it was raining, the mind switched and now it's experiencing anger, frustration. In the enlightened mind, you'll wake up in the morning and be like already happy. You'll already be joyful before you ever saw it was sunny outside because it's unconditioned happiness. It's unconditioned joy. And now you see it's sunny outside. It's like, sweet, I'm going hiking today. I'm going to go call my friends. We're going to go out hiking. We're going to have a great time. This is going to be awesome. Now you go take a shower and you come out and it's raining. It's like, well, guess I'm not going hiking. Maybe I'll stay home and read a book. Maybe I'll go to the mall, watch a movie. Maybe I'll call my friends and invite them over to have some dinner. We'll make some dinner together. No big deal, right? You didn't form your happiness on the sun. So when the sun is gone, you can still maintain your joy. You can still maintain your happiness. But if you have conditioned feelings, you can't do that. The mind is forming its inner feelings based on some condition. And we're going to explain this more. But essentially, this is what the unenlightened mind is doing. is experiencing these pleasant feelings, painful feelings, and neither painful nor pleasant. And this is referred to as discontent, discontented, discontentedness. Essentially, the mind is shaken up. It's unsteady. It's uncalm. Now, that's the learning part. That's the part where I'm helping you to intellectually understand this. But now you reflect on it, because you need to independently verify this. Don't believe what I'm sharing with you, because that's not going to get you to wisdom. You know that your mind is unenlightened. Ask yourself, is this what you experience? Do you experience pleasant feelings, painful feelings, and feelings that are neither painful nor pleasant? Because you should be able to look at your experiences in life and all the different feelings that you've had, and it should map into these three, because this is a universal truth. It's universally true amongst all individuals. If there's a certain feeling that you experience that doesn't fit into one of these three categories, you can let me know when we get to the question period. Now, as I mentioned, some people refer to this as suffering. I'm going to circle back here and help you understand why I don't use that word, because the suffering explains the painful feelings really well. When you're angry, when you're sad, when you're frustrated, or any of those other feelings like stress or anxiety or guilt or shame or fear, you might say you're suffering. But if your boss came in and gave you a raise and you got really excited or happy about that, would you say you were suffering in that situation? Probably not, right? Or if your mom calls you up and says, hey, I'm going to come visit you this weekend, and you got really excited about that, would you say you were suffering? Probably not. Or say that person you don't know comes on the bus and sits next to you and your body was touching their body. Would you say you were suffering in that situation? Probably not, right? So if we use the word suffering, we're only understanding 33% of what the Buddha was teaching on this important topic. We're missing 66% of what he's explaining. So it's not really fully describing the full spectrum of emotions and feelings that the mind is experiencing in the unenlightened state. And how could you ever get to the goal of enlightenment if you're missing 66% of a teacher's teachings? So I encourage you to use the term discontent, discontented, or discontentedness. This is going to bring your mind to the full understanding of what the Buddha was explaining here in this universal truth. Now I'm going to explain the third universal truth, and I see that our projector has been moved and adjusted. It's off the screen. If anybody would like to adjust that, you're more than welcome to. It just needs to come up a little bit. But at the bottom here, there's the universal truth of non-self. And what it says is that there is no permanent self. What the universal truth of non-self is it's a solution to one of the problems that the Buddha discovered in the unenlightened mind. Let me explain to you what the problem is first, and then I'll explain to you the solution of the universal truth of non-self. In the unenlightened mind, the Buddha discovered 10 individual fetters. They're referred to as fetters because during the lifetime of the Buddha, if you were a prisoner and they were trying to keep you trapped or confined to a certain area, they would put a shackle and a chain and a ball around your ankle, and they would turn you out in a field, and there'd just be a field of criminals there hanging out because they couldn't go anywhere because of this ball and chain on their ankle. Today, we put prisoners in jail cells and prison cells and things like this, that we don't do that anymore. But when the Buddha discovered these individual pollutions in the mind, he referred to them as fetters because it's keeping the mind trapped in the unenlightened state. As long as the mind has these 10 pollutions, it's fettered. It's being trapped and held down in this unenlightened state. So what you're doing on the path to enlightenment is you're uprooting these fetters. You're getting rid of these pollutions out of the mind. And the very first fetter is called personal existence view. This is where the mind has confusion or misunderstanding or the misperception that this body and or this mind is you. The mind will cling to this self-image or this self-identity in the mind, wanting to be perceived by others in a certain way. And when you feel like you're being perceived the way you want to be perceived, you will be happy about that. You'll have pleasant feelings. But when you're not being perceived the way you want to be perceived, you will be frustrated, agitated, or annoyed, or some other painful feeling. So if you've ever been in a public situation where you spilt like spaghetti sauce or chocolate ice cream on your clothing and you were embarrassed, This is your personal existence view. The mind is clinging to this self-image, wanting to be perceived by others in a certain way. And now when you're not being perceived that way, your mind really struggles in that experience, and you might experience embarrassment. Or if you've ever looked in the mirror and you saw a wrinkle or a mole or a pimple or a gray hair, or you started losing your hair and you were like, oh my goodness, a pimple, oh my goodness, a mole, and you were shaken up by that, that's your personal existence view. Or if you were like me, when I was a kid, I used to get out the gel and the mousse and I'd be running it through my hair, trying to get every little hair in exactly the right spot before I go out to school and get on the school bus. And sometimes I'd even miss the school bus. I was doing this for so long. This is personal existence view. If you've ever put on clothing and looked in the mirror and be like, no, that's not how I want to look today. And you went and got some other clothes and no, that's not how I want to look today. You got another set. You're like, all right, this is how I want to look today. Or you like stood at your closet thinking through, who am I going to see today and how do I want to look? This is the mind having personal existence view, wanting to be perceived by others in a certain way. And you can't feel comfortable going outside until all those things are in place, essentially. Or maybe somebody says something positive about this body. They say, wow, you're so beautiful. You're so handsome. That shirt really brings out the color of your eyes. And you're like, they're talking about me, right? But then it's only a matter of time before somebody says something negative or degrading or disparaging about this physical body. And now you feel frustrated, you feel agitated or annoyed. This is the mind clinging to the self-image, wanting to be perceived by others in a certain way. But then there's also the self-identity in the mind. This is where you might be clinging to things about your culture, your ethnicity, your sexual orientation, your nationality, your job or occupation. When you're clinging to an identity, again, if you experience agreeable things related to that, you'll be happy. But when you're experiencing disagreeable things, you'll be sad or frustrated or some other painful feeling. So if you could think back to a time where maybe you were with a boyfriend or girlfriend, if your mind identified with, I am a boyfriend, I am a girlfriend, or maybe I am a husband or I am a wife, and your mind identified that way. Now, when you got out of the relationship for whatever reason, you might have really struggled because your mind didn't identify with, I am single. Your mind didn't identify that way. And you might have felt like you wanted to hurry up and get right back into another relationship because the mind felt like that was the way to solve this problem. This uncomfortableness that you felt when you were single, the mind was like, I'm not single. I'm a boyfriend. I'm a girlfriend. I'm a husband. I'm a wife. And you might have wanted to feel like you wanted to hurry up and get right back into another relationship. Or say your mind identifies with, I am American, or I am German, or I am Lithuanian, or I am Chinese, or any of this I am related to your culture, your ethnicity. If you're at a restaurant and 2 tables over, they're saying all Americans are lovely and kind and warm and gentle. I've never heard this before, but maybe this might be something that people say. You don't know, right? So if you hear this and you identify with I am American, you'll be so happy and excited because they're talking about me, right? But now 2 tables over, they say something negative or degrading or disparaging about your nationality, maybe about Chinese people or maybe about Lithuanian people or people from Ecuador or Mexico, wherever you identify as where you're from. Now you're going to be frustrated or agitated or annoyed because you're holding on to this identity and this is who you think you are. Or if you've ever had a job or occupation, like I am a police officer, and now you identify with that in your mind. Well, as long as you're doing that job, you might feel great. But now when you get injured and you can't do the job anymore, or you retire, or any other thing like this, maybe you get fired from that job. Now you're a taxi driver. And now the mind doesn't identify that way. And now the mind wants to be this police officer. And now it feels uncomfortable in this situation because it identifies with I am a police officer. And it doesn't feel comfortable being retired or doing something else, right? So this is the mind's personal existence view with the self-identity. And there's people that actually come to Thailand sometimes thinking that they're going to find themselves. They feel like, I don't even know who I am anymore. I need to go find my true self. And sometimes they come to places like Thailand to find themselves, right? I'm going to share with you that you won't find yourself here in Thailand, because what the Buddha is sharing with you is that there is no self, that none of these things exist. right? If someone came to Thailand to find themselves, they might actually find new hobbies, new activities, new friends, maybe a new job, something like this. And they might go back home and they're like, wow, I found myself. I know who I am again. Oh, this is great. I found myself in Thailand. Well, then as soon as all that stuff changes, where they're not doing that job, they don't have those friends, they're not doing those hobbies, now they're lost again. I don't even know who I am anymore. I need to go find my true self, right? So what the Buddha is saying is none of these things define who you are as a person. I had a student one time contact me who still studies with me today, and he contacted me and he said, you know, David, I'm having such a hard time. He said, ever since COVID, I go into these stores and they have this cashless payment and I have to use this screen to be able to pay them. And they turn it around to me in places like a coffee shop where I've spent 30 seconds giving them my order, and they turn around the screen and I have to pay for my coffee. And now it says tip 25%, 28%, 30%. He's like, I am a great tipper and I just don't tip. And I feel so conflicted. I feel so uncomfortable because I am a great tipper. And he's like, I don't understand why I feel so uncomfortable in this situation. And I said, this is your personal existence view. Your mind is thinking, I am a great tipper. That's what you're identifying with. And now when you're not tipping, you don't feel comfortable. So your mind can cling to any number of things as part of your self-identity. And then there's this self-image that the mind is clinging to. And what the Buddha teaches you is that there is no self. You can get to the point where you understand that this body was born on a particular land, referred to as America in my case, but I don't have to identify as I am American. I can just understand that this body was born on a piece of earth that people refer to as America, but I don't have to adopt that identity in my mind. And the same thing with you. Wherever you were born, you don't have to adopt that identity of who you are. And there's a certain job or occupation that you might work. You don't have to adopt that as your identity. Or say you used drugs and alcohol in the past. You don't have to adopt the identity of I am an alcoholic or I am an addict, because sometimes people teach you to be able to adopt that into your mind, right? We can understand that, yeah, I made choices in the past to use drugs and alcohol, but those choices don't define who I am as a person. I'm no longer making those choices anymore, so I don't have to identify as that, as who I am as a person. So as long as your mind's clinging to any self-identity or any self-image, you'll be happy and excited and feeling pleasure in some cases, and in other cases, you'll have painful feelings. So to solve this, the Buddha teaches you that there is no self. There is a body, there is a mind, and it has come together for this existence, but you don't need to cling to any of that as who you are as a person. So this is a little bit on the universal truth of non-self. And sometimes people understand it when I first talk about it, other times not. So if you don't understand this 100% right now, it's okay. Because all throughout your life, you have been kind of taught to adopt personal existence view, right? In our countries, we have national anthems, we have flags, we have sports teams, you carry around a passport with a certain country and an identity, right? So we've been kind of conditioned over the course of our life to think that there is a self here. So over time, you will need to shed that in order to get to enlightenment, where you can understand this body was born in a certain land, but you don't have to identify that way and things of this nature. But nonetheless, if you don't understand this 100%, it's okay. You're going to have time to peer into this more and more, because every single one of us were given labels at birth. I don't know all of your labels, but my label was David. Right? That was my label that was given to me. And then we start having this character, this personality that wraps around that. And now that's part of our personal existence view. So we've been taught ever since birth to have this personal existence view. And sometimes people don't understand it and can't see the importance of stripping it away as they're first starting to learn. But nonetheless, even at this beginning stage, you can independently verify that there is no self. Here's some ways for you to do that, because what I just shared with you was the intellectual learning. Now we're going to move it into the reflection so that you can understand how to reflect and independently verify this so you're not believing me. Think about yourself when you were a child, when you were a teenager, when you were in early adulthood, and then now. Think about yourself, how you think of yourself. Has it been exactly the same through all those phases of your life? Or has it been constantly changing? It's been constantly changing, right? So there you can see there's no permanent self. If my arm was amputated and I only had one hand and one arm, am I less of a person? Are you less of a person if you only have one hand and one arm? No, right? So here you can see intellectually, you understand that this body is not you. Because otherwise you would have answered that question differently, right? You would have said, yes, I'm less of a person because I have less body, I'm less of a person. But your mind understands intellectually that this body is in you because you just answered that question and said, no, I'm not less of a person. But that's where the mind's confusion comes in, that personal existence view. As I shared with you, it's confusion, it's misunderstanding, where the mind thinks that this body is you. So intellectually, you can understand that this body is not you, but then when someone either compliments it or says something degrading or disparaging about it, that's where you have a conditioned pleasant feeling or a painful one, right? Here's a third way that you can independently verify that this body and this mind is not you. Where are you? Can you point to yourself? Where are you? Okay, someone's pointing here. Okay, we got some people pointing here. This is common, right? People will usually point here or here. Okay, so if we're pointing here and we're saying, I am here, you got to look at what you're pointing to. What you're pointing to is a shirt. That's what you're pointing to. And ask yourself, is that who you are? Is that shirt you? If we took off our shirt and held it up and pointed to it, is that me? Is that who I am, this shirt? Or is that who you are, that shirt? That's not you, right? Okay, so let's throw it away. Where are you? And someone might point again. You got to see what you're pointing to. You're pointing to skin. Ask yourself, are you that skin? That skin that you've got, is that you? That's not you, right? If we held it up and we pointed to it, that's not you. Get rid of the skin. What do we got left? Someone might say, I'm here. We've got bones, we've got fluid, we got muscle tissue, we've got organs. None of those little bits and pieces and parts are you. But the mind's personal existence view will think that it is. It will hold on to it and it will cling to it. And then it will get either pleasant feelings or painful feelings related to it. So the Buddha is helping you to be able to see that there is no self. And you're going to need to be able to essentially realize non-self. Through training the mind, you can strip this away where you understand that there is a body, there is a mind. It's wise for me to take care of it and make wise decisions to keep it healthy, but this doesn't define who I am. So if I get taller or shorter or fatter or skinnier, that my mind isn't affected by that, right? But if your mind has personal existence view, you will be affected by these things. So in order to get to enlightenment, you're going to need to realize non-self over time. And there's more training and there's more techniques that I would share with you of how to do this, but this is just an introduction to it. So do you guys have any questions on these three universal truths of impermanence, discontentedness, and non-self? Okay. I don't see any questions anywhere. Okay, so one more building block and then I'll teach you the Four Noble Truths. This is called craving, desire, attachment. This is the wants and expectations, the grasping, the holding, the clinging. This is how the mind longs and yearns for something. It pulls in the direction of the objects of its affection, wanting things to be permanently pleasing. The mind is longing, yearning for things. If you've ever been to the mall and you saw a brand new pair of shoes and you were like, oh, a brand new pair of shoes. Yes, yes. Oh, I can't wait to get those on my feet. When I go to work on Monday morning, everyone's going to see those shoes. Oh, it's going to look so great, right? This is a craving. This is a longing. This is a yearning. It's almost like an unquenchable thirst where the mind thinks the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide some lasting satisfaction. The mind's like, I know what I need to feel better. I need more money. Let me get more money. And now the mind will chase that for a while. Or the mind's like, oh, I know what I need. A new boyfriend, a new girlfriend. That'll fix everything. Let me get one of those. And the mind will chase after this. Or you might be in the mall and be like, oh, more jewelry. That's what I need. I need more jewelry. That's going to make me happy. So what the mind's doing with craving, desire, attachment is it's longing, yearning for something externally. The craving, desire, attachment is not the object itself. It's the way that the mind longs and yearns for it. It's wanting this thing, thinking that it's going to provide lasting satisfaction. It's the mind seeking pleasure externally and thinking that that's what it's going to take to be able to get to this permanent happiness. So this is called craving, desire, attachment, the longing, the yearning, the chasing after the objects of your affection. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Have you felt this and experienced this before, where your mind's pulling towards something, right? And it's like an unquenchable thirst. The mind just wants more and more and more and more and more. Okay, so now we can go into the Four Noble Truths, and I will help you to understand the problem in the mind, the cause of that problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward. This is where you can have a real breakthrough to finally understanding what's causing these discontent feelings so that you can actually eliminate them. Okay, so the first noble truth is explaining the problem. The problem that the Buddha discovered is that everyone that is unenlightened will experience discontentedness. The discontentedness is the problem. The way the mind experiences pleasant feelings, and it's so pleasant, but then it experiences painful feelings, and then it experiences the neither painful nor pleasant feelings. The mind's essentially going up and down, up and down. It's only a matter of time before you become annoyed or frustrated about something, right? This is the problem that the Buddha discovered, is that the mind can't be permanently peaceful. It can't be permanently joyful in the unenlightened state. This is the problem. The mind's going up and down and up and down. There'll be periods of time where you're calm or settled or peaceful here and there, but it's only a matter of time before you get so happy and so excited, but then you get sad or frustrated or agitated or annoyed. This is the mind going up and down, up and down. That's the problem. The second noble truth is explaining the cause of this problem. Discontentedness is caused by our own cravings, desires, attachments, because the mind wants everything to be permanent when everything in the world is impermanent. I'll say that a few times, and I'm going to give you some examples. That discontentedness, the pleasant feelings, painful feelings, neither painful nor pleasant, is being caused by craving, desire, attachment, the longing, the yearning, the wanting things to be a certain way. The mind's craving permanence when in reality it lives in an impermanent world. If the mind gets what it wants, it gets happy or excited. But if the mind isn't getting what it wants or expects, then it gets angry or sad or frustrated, some other painful feeling. So here's some examples to help you see this. Think back to that boyfriend or girlfriend that you first got together with. Wow, everything was so nice. It was so pleasurable at the beginning. You guys were having great conversations. You were going to the park. You were going to the movies or to dinner. You were having all these great conversations. Maybe you were having intimate contact at different times and having all this pleasure. And wow, it felt so great at the beginning. But then over time, you guys became angry and frustrated at each other, and you broke up. And now you might have been even more angry, even more frustrated. You might have felt lonely or bored during this period of time. You might have felt like you were missing this individual. It wasn't your love that was causing those painful feelings. It was the mind holding on and craving permanence, wanting this relationship to be permanent, when in reality it was impermanent. So another way to say this is not only that the mind craves permanence, it's to say that the mind is uncomfortable with impermanence when things are changing. You can think about your life when all the major things have been changing, whether it's your jobs or your relationships or other things like this, where you live. When you've made these changes, even if they're changes that you implemented, these were very challenging times in your life. You can think about when grandma or grandpa have died, or mom or dad, or brothers and sisters. Right? If you were grieving and sorrowful during that time, you're not a bad person. You haven't done anything wrong. It's just that the mind was craving permanence, wanting grandma and grandpa to be permanent, when in reality, they are impermanent. Because they were born, they had to die. But if our mind is craving permanence and wanting them to be with us permanently, we will really struggle during that period of time. Or if you've ever been to a wedding, right, and people were grieving at a wedding, maybe you or the people around you were grieving and sorrowful. Maybe brother or sister or cousins or friends are going off into the world with somebody else. And the mind's like, How dare you? That's my brother. That's my sister, right? How dare you, right? It's like somebody's taking them away from you. And now the mind experiences this impermanence that they're not mine. It's not my brother, right? This person is going off into the world with somebody else. And now the mind is grieving at this wedding. Or if you think back to when you got dropped off at university, or maybe back to grade school, or if you've ever seen children get dropped off when they go to kindergarten or something, they cry and cry and cry. It's not because of their love, because love is a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. What's causing them to grieve is that they thought mom and dad were permanent. And now they're going off into the world all by themselves, and they're holding on. Their mind is holding on. And mom and dad might be crying too when their child's going off into the world without them. This is the mind craving permanence. Let me give you another example that doesn't include relationships. Let's say you bought a brand new car and you've been saving up for this brand new car for a really long time. And you bought this car, so happy and excited. You're driving off the lot of the dealership and people are like, wow, look at her. She's so successful. Wow, look at him. He's so successful. And you just feel so proud driving your new car. Maybe you park it at a store and now you go inside the store and you come outside and there's a scratch on your car. You're frustrated, you're angry, right? It's not the scratch that's causing that. And it's not the person who scratched your car. What's causing the frustration and the anger to arise is the mind is craving permanence, wanting this car to look permanently beautiful. Now, when we go out into the world, we aspire not to damage other people's property. When we walk through a parking lot, we aspire not to scratch people's stuff. That's a wise thing to do. But we're not talking about what's wise or unwise here. We're talking about what's causing your mind to be discontent. What it is that the mind is craving this car to be permanent. The mind is holding on to things, getting its pleasure when this car looks so beautiful. But this car is going to get scratched. The paint's going to fade, the tires are going to change, the upholstery is going to get ripped and torn. You will experience impermanence with this vehicle. And as long as your mind is craving permanence, you will have struggles and difficulties in those situations, right? So these are just a couple of examples. But now you need to see it for yourself. You need to be able to see that your mind is craving permanence, because that's the intellectual learning that I just shared. You need to move it into reflection and see it for yourself. Take a recent time when you've been angry or you've been frustrated or agitated or annoyed. It might have been this morning. Might have been yesterday or last week. Look at that situation with these fresh eyes, because at that time you might have been trying to blame other people, because that's what the mind does with its lack of wisdom, is it'll blame other people for the feelings that you're having, because you're perfect, right? It's everyone else that's the problem, right? That's usually what the mind thinks, right? But look at that same situation. What was it that your mind wanted? What did you expect? What were you longing and yearning for? What were you craving? That if you would have got what you wanted, you would have been happy or excited. But because you didn't get what you wanted, the mind was frustrated or agitated or annoyed or some other discontent feeling. You should be able to independently verify this. And where you can't, let me know and I will help you, right? Because I've had students say to me, they say, David, hold on a second. I went to work the other day and my house looked beautiful. And I came home from work and my wife had this craft project all over the house. And when I walked in, I got frustrated. How did my mind cause this? Because that's what I'm sharing with you, is that your mind is causing your own discontent feelings. They were like, how did my mind cause this? Because my wife's the one who messed up the house. I wasn't even there, right? And what I had to help them to be able to see is that their mind was craving permanence. They went to work with the expectation that their house would look exactly the same way when they came back home. And when they came home, their house looked different. And their mind experienced this impermanence, and their mind wasn't comfortable with that. So their mind was causing their own discontentedness, their own anger and frustration. It wasn't their wife that was causing that. The wife had this craft project out, working on the craft project, and their house is not going to look a certain way permanently. But also this craft project being out, that's not permanent either. She will probably put it away. Maybe you help her put it away. The mind is going to experience these discontent feelings when it's craving permanence. So you need to be able to see this within your own life to be able to have this breakthrough to understanding that it's not the outside world that's causing you to be angry, frustrated, or sad, or any other discontent feeling. Because when your mind firmly believes that it's the outside world, the belief, you don't know what's true or false because you haven't independently verified it for yourself. But when you look at it with wisdom and you see that it's your own mind, you can have this breakthrough, because when you understand what's causing it, then you can actually eliminate it. But as long as you don't understand what's causing it and you firmly believe it's the outside world, what you'll tend to do is push people away. You'll push a situation, or you'll push the person away. You might have pushed away friends or family members in your life. You might have pushed them away. And you can see that this doesn't solve the problem, because if this solved the problem, you would be peaceful and joyful from that point forward. But when you push those people away, you still get annoyed, you still get frustrated, you still get agitated. Or the second thing you'll do when you don't understand the second noble truth is you'll be bitter and harsh and hostile towards people, through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. And I'm sure that you've experienced this, where you were bitter and harsh and hostile with others, and they might have chose to leave out of your life. Because this is like an animal growling and roaring at another animal, trying to fear that animal into doing things your way. So a human being is trying to growl and roar, trying to get its cravings fulfilled, trying to fear this person into doing things your way, through your intentions, your speech, and your actions, being bitter and harsh and hostile. And you might even feel justified in your anger and your conduct, because your mind firmly believes that this other person is causing your painful feelings. Or the third thing you might do when you don't understand the second noble truth is you might put your expectations on people and try to control them and force them to do things your way. And the person's going to feel pressured, and they might feel like they want to leave out of the relationship. So as long as you're pushing people away, being bitter, harsh, and hostile, or putting your expectations on people, you're not going to be able to live harmoniously with all beings. You're going to have broken relationship after broken relationship after broken relationship, because it's only a matter of time before somebody does something that you disagree with, right? If you can only like people who you agree with, who do things your way, you're only going to be able to like one person. If you can only love people who do things your way, you're only going to be able to love one person in the world. Do you know who that person is? Yourself, right? Because you're the only person that's going to do things your way, right? So you might even have a difficult time loving yourself sometimes, right? So if you understand that your mind is craving permanence, it's wanting everybody to be a certain way, it's wanting everybody to do things your way, and that's just not possible, because you live in an impermanent world. Things are constantly changing. So then you come to the understanding that the way to eliminate your discontentedness is to eliminate the cause. That's what the third noble truth is explaining to you, that the way to eliminate discontentedness is to eliminate the cause, which is the craving, desire, attachment. If you can eliminate, the longing, the yearning, the craving for things to be a certain way, you will eliminate the discontentedness. And then the way to accomplish this is in the fourth noble truth. The fourth noble truth is explaining the path to eliminating discontentedness is the Eightfold Path. That's the complete, perfect plan that the Buddha shares about how to actually eliminate your discontent feelings. He gives you right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. And you can learn his teachings behind this. This is just an image. But behind this, he's actually got words that are going to explain to you exactly how to train your mind to eliminate the longing, yearning, and forming your inner feelings based on some condition. So what I just taught you is right view. What wrong view would be is to blame other people. If you continue to blame other people for the feelings that you're experiencing, you will never eliminate your anger. You will be frustrated and agitated the rest of your life. But when you come to establish right view, and you can see rightly that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, now you can actually solve them, because you can apply the actual solution to the real cause of the problem. But if you don't understand the problem and the cause, the elimination and the path forward, you'll never actually be able to solve it. So having right view is to accept responsibility for your own feelings, your own emotions, your own actions, your own speech, your own intention. If you blame other people for the things that you're experiencing, you will never actually be able to transform your life and transform your mind. So the Buddha starts you off at the very beginning of the path, making sure that you have right view to be able to see yourself in a way that you can independently verify that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. So I'm going to pause here and see if you guys have any questions that you would like to ask about the Four Noble Truths or anything else that I've been teaching you today. Do you guys have any questions that you'd like to ask? Yes, ma'am. And remember, for those of you guys online, you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like.
I had a question about like values and integrity. I think I get a lot of discontentedness from an example is my younger sister. She says she's like loyal to me and loves me and many things, but when it comes to actions of living out that integrity of the words aligning with actions, like the lack of communication, I guess, it comes across as causing me sadness, loneliness.
Yeah.
And so I guess where do values and living by your values and integrity come when there are these things that we try to keep permanent, but I guess they still are impermanent. So yeah, what would the Buddha say about trying to live with integrity by your values?
Yeah, so what you're experiencing is when you hear those things from your sister, you're forming an expectation in your mind of what those things mean to you. You're clinging to your perception. When you hear her say certain things, you start forming expectations, wanting her to be a certain way. And if she was that way, you'd be happy. But if she's not that way, you're going to be sad or frustrated. So you need to understand that your sister is her own individual being. She's making decisions in her own way. And you would be wise to not have any expectations of her. She's in her own journey and she's going to do whatever she's planning to do in life. And if you don't have any expectations of her and you can just love her as she is, right? So you can separate the choices and decisions that someone makes from the person themselves, where you can disagree with her choices and decisions while still loving her as a person. And loving someone means you have a genuine interest in seeing them be well, but you don't have an expectation of what they should or shouldn't be doing. You can actually get to a point on this path where if somebody actually murdered your mother, you could still love them. Doesn't mean you're interested in sitting down and having dinner with them, right? But you can still love them, meaning you have a genuine interest in seeing them be well. You can disagree, like, hey, I disagree that you murdered this person, but I can still love you, meaning I have a genuine interest in seeing you be well. So values and integrity and all those things, those are just perceptions that your mind is forming of how this person should conduct themselves. For you as an individual, you would like your intentions, your speech, and your actions to be in sync, right? In terms of how to get to enlightenment, you're going to need to have your spoken words in sync with your actions, because that's where people will see you as being trustworthy and loyal and dependable and reliable and things like this. And that's what's going to be your karma, the results of your decisions. But your sister is not at that place in her life. She doesn't have that wisdom. So you can maintain your peace and your joy by just understanding that she's who she is. She's making these decisions. You don't have to have any expectation of her for doing things one way or the other, and ensure that the mind's not judging her and looking down on her and trying to determine what's wholesome or unwholesome for her, because that's her life. Just love her as she is. Just appreciate her. Just have fun. Just enjoy your time with her, but don't want her, expect her to be any particular way. She's just going to do what she's going to do in life, and then you just make choices for your life of whether to involve her in your life and how much to involve her in your life and in what situations. And when she promises things to you, if you know in your mind, like, there's no way she's going to do this, just know that, like, there's no way she's going to do this. And that's her choice and that's her decision. So you don't rely on her for certain things to occur. If she says, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, you just like, okay, that's fine, up to you. But then if you have to get something done and it's important to you, just make sure that you do those things and you don't rely on her to be able to accomplish any goals for your life.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions? Okay. Yes, ma'am. Yep.
I have a questions like just now we talked about like who are we? So the more I learn about that, the more I feel confused. Like who am I? What am I doing? What I'm looking for? And why I'm on the planet?
Yeah, the mind's going to, in the unenlightened state, keep grasping. As long as this personal existence view is in your mind, you're going to keep grasping for something of who am I? If I'm not the body and I'm not the mind, then who am I? Right? This is the mind still trying to grab onto something. And ultimately, you need to get to the point where the mind's no longer doing that. That you're just one being of many beings. Oftentimes, we're taught to go out into the world and leave our mark on society. And, we've got to change the world and all this kind of stuff. This is a really big burden to carry on your shoulders. If you've ever been up in an airplane and you look down and you look at people kind of moving about the planet in cars and things like this, essentially what we look like, in my opinion, is a bunch of ants. Like if you look at a line of ants just carrying things around and moving from place to place, that's essentially what we are. You're just one ant of many ants, right? But as soon as your mind wants this significance of who I am and what my purpose is in this world, and I need to be a somebody in this world, this is the mind's ego trying to put itself above other people, where ultimately you would like to get rid of that. Because personal existence view is part of the mind's ego, where it has this arrogance and boastfulness and pride, this measuring and comparing and putting ourselves above others or below others. So you're going to need to strip that away, where you're not trying to keep grasping for who I am and what is my significance in this world, where you're just one human being of many billions of human beings that exist on the planet. And this will actually help you to get to more peace and more joy. So your mind's going to need to get to a point where it's no longer grasping. And that's where this training comes in. You're going to need to train your mind to be able to do that. You can't just hear what I taught with the universal truth of non-self and just implement it with a snap of a finger. There's actually other teachings where I go into much more detail about that topic, and I give you all the different training to do to help the mind to strip that away. If you're interested in seeing it, it's in this first book, Volume 1, Chapter 16, and you can get this book for free by downloading it on our website. You can take it and go print it if you like. You can get printed versions here by reimbursing us for the printing cost, or you can get it on Amazon. So it's Volume 1, Chapter 16, which goes into the ego and explains personal existence view and how to proactively eliminate it from the mind.
Okay, thank you. I was just very confused, like what to do in daily life, because like you told about the craving stuff, and it makes me feel like maybe I shouldn't have too many desires.
Yeah, that's what the mind does in the unenlightened state, is it chases after its longing, yearning, its craving, its desires. It's chasing those pleasant feelings. It's almost like being addicted to a drug that the mind is chasing and trying to get those pleasant feelings. And if the mind's not doing that in the unenlightened state, it will typically swing all the way over here to the other side, where it's dull and lethargic and it feels unmotivated and lazy. And these are the two opposite sides of the spectrum. And what the Buddha is doing is teaching you how to come to the middle way. He's inviting you to come to this middle way where you can strip away all of that longing, yearning, and you can get to the point where you're making wise decisions to work towards your goals, objectives, or interests in the world. Because while we don't need to identify with any of this as who we are, we can go into the world and help the world. We can help others. That's one of the joyful things in the world, is that we can go out into the world and we can contribute our understanding or our wisdom or some skill or ability or a product or a service. We can contribute that to the world and help others. But we need to learn how to do that without craving, desire, attachment, and chasing after it. But also being over here and being dull and lethargic, that's not going to feel comfortable either. So there's no harm in having goals, objectives, or interest, but you need to be sure that it's a true goal. and a true objective. Because oftentimes what people do is they set what they think is a goal in their mind. And if they accomplish it, they get really happy. And if they don't accomplish it, they'll be sad. That's not actually a true goal. That's a craving, desire, attachment masquerading as a goal. That what a craving, desire, attachment is that longing, yearning, informing your inner feelings based on whether you get that thing or not. If it's a true goal, you can work towards it, and say you're 80% of the way there and you haven't met your goal, you can maintain your contentedness. You can maintain your joy because you're not forming your inner feelings based on whether you get this thing or not. And now you're 80% of the way there, you can look at it and you can say, what should I do here? I can extend my timeline. I can give myself more time to meet my goal, or I could add resources to make this ability to get to this goal more feasible. Or you know what? Hey, I'm fine with the 80%. I don't even need to go the full 100% because, wow, look at what I'm experiencing just with this 80%. You know what? I just think I'll be fine with this. So your mind, if it's a true goal, you can make wise decisions towards working towards that thing, and whether you accomplish it or not, you can maintain your peace and your joy. But if it's a craving, desire, attachment masquerading as a goal, you can only get to it. You can only get to happiness if you actually accomplish it. But then you'll actually be sad if you don't. So there's this middle way where you can make wise decisions towards goals and objectives, and then your mind can maintain its contentedness and peacefulness. Because if you look at the Buddha in his life, 2,500 years ago, he had the goal that his teachings would reach the entire world. But he knew it wouldn't be during his lifetime, right? So he just gradually, slowly but surely, from the age of 35 to 80, for 45 years, shared his teachings into the world in a way that would help people. And he knew that his teachings would eventually reach the entire world, but it wouldn't be during his lifetime. So he was never going to meet that goal during his lifetime. So he just gradually worked towards it. And then at some point in the future, his teachings would meet his ultimate goal. So you're going to need to learn how to form goals, work towards them with wise decision making, and then maintain your peacefulness whether you accomplish that goal or not. And that's what the mind needs to learn how to do.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, ma'am. It just takes a second. Yeah, it's on now.
Yeah, I was just wondering, how do you balance not being agitated by the external environment in times when you should actually speak up? Like, say, toxic work environments or some social causes in society.
Yeah, you'll actually be able to speak up better when you don't have craving, desire, attachment in your mind. When you have a longing, yearning, and expectation for how things should be in the work environment, when they meet that, you'll be happy. And when they don't meet it, you'll be agitated, frustrated, and annoyed. And now when you speak, you're going to speak through that frustration and that agitation and annoyment. And now you're going to be experiencing unwholesome results because you're being bitter and harsh and hostile potentially with the people around you. But if you get rid of your expectations and your wants, now you can just make wise decisions to talk to people at your work, and you can do it in a wise way, in a polite and kind and friendly and respectful way. Because in this situation, you're not trying to get what you want, and you're not being harsh and bitter and hostile. You're just sharing some ideas that could make the work environment maybe more cohesive or more harmonious. And now you can do that calmly and with wisdom because your mind is stable. But over here, when your mind's agitated and frustrated, the mind's not stable, so it's all shaken up. So when your mind is uncalm, you will not have mindfulness or awareness of mind. When you don't have awareness of mind, you will lack concentration and focus and clarity. And then you can't access your wisdom to be able to make wise decisions in a certain situation. This is like if you got a phone call that your mom was in a terrible car accident and she was being rushed to the hospital in the back of an ambulance. Your mind might be shaken up by this due to your attachment to your mom, and you might be uncalm. You don't have your mindfulness, you don't have your concentration, and you don't have your wisdom. And now you grab your car keys, jump in the car, race across town to the hospital, and maybe you get in a car accident yourself. But if you can maintain your calmness and composure in these kinds of situations, whether it's work or personal, you can say, mom's in a car accident. Okay, well, she's in the back of an ambulance. That's the best place she could be. She's about to arrive to a hospital with emergency medical technicians and nurses and doctors. You know what? let me take my time and get to the hospital and stay calm so that when I get there, I can talk to the doctors and nurses, find out what's going on, and now I can start making some wise decisions to help her. Because if you even show up at the hospital with a shaken up mind, even if you didn't get in an accident, your mind's so shaken up, you can't even listen and understand what the nurses and doctors are saying in order to make wise decisions to help mom. So it's the same kind of thing in a work environment, that if your mind's all shaken up, you'll talk to people in unkind and unfriendly ways, and then they're just going to ignore you. They're not going to pay attention to you. So if you've got some real important things to share about a work environment, you like to do it politely, kindly, friendly, and respectfully with wisdom. If you're noticing your mind's agitated and frustrated, it's not the proper time to talk. That's part of what the Buddha teaches you here under right speech. This moral conduct that he teaches, it's not like rules and commandments. He's actually teaching you the natural law of how to do things in the world that are going to produce wholesome results for you. So that one of the things that he teaches about right speech is to speak at the proper time. And speaking at the improper time would be to interrupt people. If your mind is angry and frustrated and agitated, that's not the proper time to talk. Or if the other person's mind is angry or frustrated or agitated, it's not the proper time to talk. And remember, these teachings are independently verifiable. So you can look at your life and you can see where you spoke, where you've interrupted people, it hasn't worked out well for you. Or if your mind was angry and frustrated, it hasn't worked out well for you. Or if other people were angry and frustrated, it didn't work out for you when you talked at that time. So the Buddha has these 5 factors of well-spoken speech that helps you to understand how to speak in wise ways so that you can establish the ability to be influential in your community and be helpful to the people around you. But if you're not aware of those 5 factors of well-spoken speech and you're not practicing them, you're going to see that you're not very effective in your personal or professional life because you're not speaking in a wise way that is going to be beneficial. So that's what part of the training is. First, the Buddha helps you to understand that your mind is causing these feelings. Right? Because once you understand that, then it's like, oh my goodness, I've been bitter, harsh, and hostile to people in my life, and it was my own mind that was causing these feelings. Oh my goodness, right? Because you can look back over your life, all those times that you were adamantly arguing with people, trying to convince them that they were making you angry and they had to stop doing what they were doing. That was you with craving, desire, attachment. Because if we didn't understand that our own mind was causing these feelings, why would we ever improve our speech or our actions? Right? It's everyone else that has the problem. They're the ones who should be here at the temple. You should be at home relaxing, right? Well, sure, other people have issues in their mind too if they're unenlightened, but you're not going to get to peace and joy by changing other people. There's 8 billion people in the world. You'd have to have a massive training program to get people to do things your way, right? And this just isn't going to work. So the Buddha teaches you as part of right speech by having a calm mind and understanding what's causing your emotions. Now you can use your speech to go into a professional or personal conversation and you can help people to understand certain things. But still, you understand that changing this work environment is not what's going to get you to peace and joy. But that doesn't mean that you still don't do that, right? There's like certain things here at the temple that I see like, oh, that we could do this better, we could do that better, but I don't have a craving and a longing, yearning for it. But I go talk to people and then we discuss things, and then they may do the things that I'm suggesting and they may not. And that's okay. You can maintain your composure either way, but there's no harm in going in and talking to people about improvements in the environment, but you just don't form your feelings on that stuff, and then you'll be more effective at it. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so I'm not seeing any other questions anywhere, either online or here. So what I'm going to do is just end class here by thanking all of you guys for joining. Thank you so much for being interested in learning the teachings of the Buddha, whether you're here or you're online. Thank you so much. It's really wonderful to be able to learn these teachings because this is where you can have a real breakthrough and you can understand that the Buddha has the answers for you of how to fix your mind, right? You can independently verify every single one of his teachings, and it's going to help you to cultivate this wisdom and completely transform your mind. So if you're interested in that help, it's available for you. Everything's available at no cost. The books, audiobooks, videos, podcasts, classes, courses, retreats, even personal guidance from me, you can sit down with me either in person or online, and I will help you, right? So if you're tired of the anger, if you're tired of the stress and the anxiety, if you're tired of the broken relationships, there's ability for you to get help. You just need to decide that you would like that help and reach out for that help. And there's someone here that's motivated to actually help you. Our website is a great place to, it's like a hub that has all the books and the videos and the podcast and all that stuff. You can schedule appointments with me. You'll see my contact information on there. So if you go to our website, buddhadailywisdom.com, that's a good place to kind of launch off and get into the resources that you need. So on Wednesday, I'm going to be teaching, or I'm going to be doing loving kindness meditation with you guys. I'm going to be guiding you in loving kindness meditation, and then I'm going to open up to any and all questions that you guys have. So if you guys would like to come for that, you're more than welcome to, and I'll be guiding you in a loving kindness meditation session. So whatever you choose to do today, have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. As we talked about, I'm sure you're going to get wet. It's only a matter of time, but enjoy. Look at it as impermanence. People might be throwing water in your face. They might be laughing and joking at you and all this kind of stuff, and just let it go. Don't cling to all of these things. It's all impermanent. Okay? So have a very wonderful and lovely rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Sawadee Kap. Sawadee Kap.
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.